malignaggi for It's a fun weekend between tonight with Jake and then tomorrow with that. I mean, it's a fun weekend. I know a lot of the pure boxing fans are like, forget Jake, bro. I'm watching. You're watching. We're watching tonight. I don't care what you guys say.
Jake tonight is great because it's Friday night. It's kind of seems so. Back in August, well, we're gonna do a pun with this. He's fighting on Andre August. Back in August, he fought Nate Diaz. What'd you take from that fight, and what can he implement into this fight?
I don't know. I still didn't see the adjustment with the feet. I think let's see how August's feet are tonight. Because that was the problem he had with Tommy Fury, where you could see that Jake hadn't made the adjustment with his feet. And again, when a boxer knew how to take advantage of that. So with Nate, you really couldn't see any of that because Nate had the same mistake MMA fighters tend to make when they fight in boxing. They kind of cross their feet and they don't have that boxing footwork. The only guy I've seen come from MMA and adjust the footwork smoothly was Ngannou. Ngannou with Fury fight. He actually, he wasn't walking, he was shuffling his feet, he was sliding. Even super athletes like McGregor and Anderson Silva had bum footwork when they came to boxing. They didn't adjust it at all. They had basically idiot trainers who didn't make an adjustment. I'm sorry to basically break that to them. But Ngannou clearly had a smart, intelligent team behind him because they adjusted his feet. And that footwork adjustment really played a big part, I think, in that fight. So I think it's an adjustment that Jake has had to also make as well. I think it's what hurt him most in the Tommy Fury fight. So that's what I'm going to be looking at tonight. I don't know if August leveled too much. I know it's not a great level, even though he's 10-1, but still, he's a boxer, so he should at least have the footwork that should force Jake to show some adjustments in his footwork. So that's what I'm going to be looking for tonight.
Andre August has fought once in the past 4 years. This is Jake's 9th fight. He's 7-1. Does this just look like a typical prospect fight, like any other prospect would have, rather than Jake's pay-per-views he's done?
That's what I'm saying. People complain because Jake's got a big name, so his prospect fights get a lot more attention than other prospect fights. But if you look at my 9th pro fight, who did I fight? I mean, if you go to BoxRec, look at my 9th pro fight. Who did I fight at my 9th pro fight? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that much of a difference if there even is a difference. I mean, granted, okay, I was fighting active guys. This guy's been all 4 years. But again, you got to keep in mind, Jake also hasn't had an amateur career. He's learning on the job, dude. So he's not changing. He's not like reinventing the wheel. He's fighting as a prospect, and he's taking his time fighting as a prospect, and he's learning on the job, just like any prospect does. And honestly, he's not fighting much lesser opposition than any other prospect on their way up. If you really look at it, even guys that have become champions or guys that have, reached a certain level and fallen off. But regardless, this is the road of a prospect. That's what Jake is doing. It's not different than any other prospect, unless you're talking about double gold medalists like Lomachenko or Rigondeaux, for the most part, or even silver or gold medalists, for the most part, this is the way a prospect moves, even when he has an amateur career. Unless it's like a super stellar amateur career,
You fought Jadashi Green, who was 6-1 at the Mountaineer Casino Racetrack and Resort in Chester, and you won off a unanimous decision.
And Joshi, I remember Joshi as a guy still keep in touch with on Instagram. Joshi was a multiple-time Golden Glove champion from Michigan. He was you had an amateur career. He was 6-1. I remember he was a pretty good puncher too. I think he had like 5 knockouts and those 6 wins. And that fight was actually, if I remember correctly, it was one of the swing bouts on an ESPN show. So you might find that one on YouTube, actually. But, yeah, I mean, for the most part, okay, he's 6-1. What's the difference? He's active, and he had probably more of an amateur career than August. But, again, Jake didn't have an amateur career. He's still fighting a guy 10-1, which means no matter what the guy's level is, he's going to come to win. When you got a 10-1 record, you don't show up just as an opponent. When you're 10-10, you'll see how the guy is, and if he's that good, you'll kind of pack it in. If you see yourself that you can win it, you'll try a little harder. You know what I'm saying? Like when a guy's 6-1, even if you crack him a few times, he's still trying to win. When a guy's 10-1, like Jake's fighting tonight, you crack him a few times, he's still gonna try to win. So it's still par for the course for a prospect to fight this kind of level. I don't think Jake is reinventing the wheel. He's just doing what a prospect does. So there's nothing to criticize. It's not like he's trying to take shortcuts. He's fighting just what any prospect is doing. But because he's more popular, people want to see him fight a top 10 guy. What average prospect in boxing fights a top 10 guy in his 9th pro fight? You saw my career ended up becoming a 2-time world champion. I was U.S. amateur champion in the amateurs. Okay. two-time New York Golden Glove champion in the amateurs. And in my 9th pro fight, that's who I was fighting. Okay. Is it that much of a difference? You know, like this is kind of par for the course. That's what I try to tell people. No matter what is going to become of Jake's career at the end of it, or no matter how far he goes, you're still looking at the road he's taking. It's not different than any other prospect. He's not taking shortcuts. He's doing it the right way. You just expect more because he's more popular than your average prospect in that phase. Because in that phase, when a guy's just getting his notoriety, he's just trying to build his record, there's not a lot of notoriety, so there's not a lot of demands for or criticism or one or the other, unless he starts to really win and look good, right? So I think people also a little bit, there's people that are way too much on the Jake Paul bandwagon when they're overdoing it, when they're not boxing fans and they just overdo it. And then there's people, the boxing fans, a lot of times I feel like are too critical of the Jake Paul bandwagon because, again, if you look at it, he's genuinely trying. And if he's going to genuinely try, I can't knock it, you know, and he's going to genuinely do it. He's genuinely doing it the way a boxing prospect does it. And again, he has no amateur career. I was U.S. amateur champion. You know what I mean? I was two-time New York Golden Glove champion. So
wait, you're what?
I was two-time New York Golden Glove champion and a U.S. amateur champion. I won the U.S. championship in 2001. But what I'm saying is the amateur career you have, you know, gets you a little bit more notoriety if it's like super amateur career, if it's like an Olympian or not even just an Olympian, an Olympic medalist, you know. And most guys aren't going to do that. So most guys are taking the same road Jake Paul's taking. Most prospects are taking that road. So not just a Jake Paul thing. It's an all boxing prospect thing.
What do you think about his stance on becoming a world champion? Let me quote, "I possess the talent, hard work, skill set, and all the attributes of a world champion so that I am already and I'm willing and manifesting the rest into existence to become a world champion." Do you fully believe that statement made by Jake Paul, the former Disney star turned boxer?
Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate here because people are going to say, oh, no. Okay. What guy starts boxing with the intention to become a club fighter? What guy starts boxing with the intention of just, you know what? I'm just going to, you know, become an opponent for somebody. My goal is to become an opponent. My goal is to become a journeyman. Everybody's goal is this. When they're boxing, when they're starting, every single person that walks to a boxing gym and starts boxing competitively, their ultimate goal is always going to be that. You know what I mean? So he's just saying things that you're supposed to say. Also, keep in mind, the cruiserweight division is not as stacked typically as other weight classes. If there is a hole, if there is a spot, if there's a vacuum to be filled with a world championship that could be filled, it is the cruiserweight division, which Jake fights in. You know, the cruiserweight division has had your Usyks and your Holyfields and your David Hayes and Jean-Marc Mormex. Off the top of my head, some great cruiserweights that I'm thinking about.
I love that.
O'Neal Bell. There have been some, but then there's also been, you know, your Macabus of the world who Badu Jack just beat to win the cruiserweight title against. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's things that, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of a hole in the cruiserweight division where you could grab something. So I'm not gonna say for sure Jake wins a world title, but I don't think he's off base to talk about the goal of winning a world title. I don't think I don't think anybody who starts boxing with anything less in mind.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I trained, but I do want to become a world champion one day. So facts.
Yeah, I mean, no. You're not competing. You're not competing. You haven't had any amateur fights, have you?
No, I would die.
No. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's not the same. It's not the same. I'm talking about whoever starts competing in combat. Whoever starts competing doesn't matter. I'm talking about competing when you get results, whether it was a winner or a loser. Nobody starts competing in boxing with the goal of saying, I'm gonna be a club fighter. You know, you're either gonna. Some people start competing with say, I want to have a few amateur fights. Just say I did it. Sure, no problem. Yeah. But whoever wants to compete long term never competes long term with the goal in mind of becoming a journeyman. You know, it's not, you know, and everybody has the goal to become somebody big. Now, most people don't make it, yes, of course. But everybody who commits to this has the goal to become a world champion. So Jake's not speaking and nobody else is thinking when they start boxing and they start competing.
His YouTube, 22 million subscribers. The combination of the 5 big boxing promotions is about 5 to 7 million. That's 4 times the amount of influence on the second biggest search platform in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that influence is the reason why we see him and the reason why he's being judged as this big entity, but really he's just a prospect. And that's why I made up a fake stat.
Good for you, Jimmy. Don't take no shit from no one. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Show him. All you need is De Niro putting the money down. Don't take no shit from
That
nobody.
is true, though. If you look at his subscribers and you combine them and compare him to all the boxing promotions, how light years ahead he is compared to them, and then look at his age base, I'd say 200% is a modest.
Is a fair estimate. All right.
It's a fair estimate.
But I can't give estimates though. I have
No,
to.
don't use that quote.
Give documented evidence. Okay. All right. No problem. No problem.
Don't quote him on that, Paulie. Don't quote him on that.
No problem. No problem. No problem. No problem. All good. All good.
All right. Well, let's round this out with your prediction on that fight, and then explain it, Paulie. What's your prediction? How's Jake going to handle August in December?
I think Jake is gonna stop August. I think Jake is gonna stop August, give or take around round 5 or 6.